I'm the CEO of RJ Reliance. In this series, I'm talking with business owners, operators, HCM leaders, employees, partners, and industry experts about how work is changing. We'll look at people, systems, payroll, HR, time, integrations, operations, and yes, AI, but always from a practical business perspective. The goal is simple: understand what companies should be thinking about as they modernize how work gets done. Today, I'm talking with an integration developer who works behind the scenes connecting HCM, payroll, HR, and workforce systems. These integrations are often invisible when they work and painful when they don't. The goal today is to make that work more understandable for business leaders, what matters, what gets missed, and how better connected systems set the foundation for automation and artificial intelligence. So today with me is Wilson Kenny, who's a developer. And so Wilson, if you can go ahead and give a brief introduction of yourself and possibly describe the kind of HCM integration work you do.
Yeah, for sure. Hello, I'm Wilson Kenny. I work on automating the data transfers between HCM systems. So if a client wants this data in another system and they want that every day, that's my job to build out that integration.
Awesome. So when it comes to examples of integrations, a lot of times people underestimate the complexity and difficulty that can come with those. Can you give an example of an integration? You don't have to name clients or anything, but an integration that you work on or that you're working on currently, maybe.
Sure. So great example is right now one of our clients where they're handing us an export file from one of their systems, and they want that data in a new system that they're moving data into. But the formats are different, or the ID values are different, or something similar. That's a lot harder to do than just a simple Microsoft Excel function, right? And so that's where we come in and we take those files, we pick them up from wherever they drop them off, and we convert them into something that the destination system can ingest, either through a flat file or speaking with the APIs directly. That's what we do.
Awesome. And all of this obviously underneath the umbrella of HCM or payroll data, so moving employee indicative data and organizational data, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, awesome. So let me ask you, when an integration is done well, what changes for the business or the people doing the work typically?
Oh man, the impact that I see immediately is just the sheer amount of time that they save. I've seen clients come in with like a process that'll take them an entire afternoon, maybe even more, and I can click a button and it's done in just a couple minutes, if that. And seeing just like seeing the clients realize just how much more they're going to be able to do is awesome. It feels like a really cool impact to be making.
Yeah, and I'm sure, and it's not only just changing their current day-to-day job, but as businesses look to grow and scale without that integration or automation that you're building, it only compounds the challenge that they're having, and may not even be one for one in terms of like adding on new staff to cover it, but more even exponential depending upon the impact to the business or what you're solving for. So moving into what makes projects hard, where do integration projects usually get stuck from your viewpoint and understanding? Like, is it unclear requirements? Is it data quality, vendor limits? What are some of the challenges that you see day to day that impact integrations and the success of those projects?
Yeah, sure. I think the main one that I see the most is definitely limitations with the systems that they're using, either with imports or with their APIs. A project can be perfectly defined and architected out, and the requirements are laid out perfectly in front of me. But if there's an issue with getting the data in or out, that's going to take a while to resolve, to try and find another avenue that we can get that data into or out of a system.
All right. And so if you were to say, when you're going into a net new project, what is one thing you wish clients or internal teams understood before development starts? Any thoughts there?
Absolutely. I feel like kind of a common misconception on the projects that I've been on that I'm going to be coming into this project as an immediate expert in whatever systems you're going to be using. And that's just not the case. But what we are very good at is finding the tools and the documentation and whatever else we need to become immediately competent in the systems that you have. We immediately know where to look to find how to log in using an API or how to push your payroll data in. Um, I might not know that off the top of my head immediately, and I might not be able to answer your questions perfectly on the kickoff call, but I know exactly where to look to find that data for you.
Okay. So moving into, speaking of data and kind of moving into data and trust, obviously you're working with potentially sensitive PII or personally identifiable information from the client. How do you think about trust in the data moving between systems? What are your thoughts there?
Sure, I do get a lot of access to people's systems. Oftentimes, a lot of data is hidden, which is great, especially when it's unnecessary for me to see. There is a certain amount of automatic trust that I have to have in that data. I don't, as an outside observer to these systems and to these clients, I don't know the ins and outs of the data that they have, and I have to trust that what they have in there is correct and valid, and I have to verify as much as possible with the client that the data that I'm sending between the systems is good and accurate. But I can't check every single byte of data coming through. So there has to be some amount of testing. There has to be some amount of just implicit trust as well.
Yeah. And I think what people often miss is that in a lot of ways, they still control, at least for the integrations you're doing in particular, as I understand it, that they still all control access to the information you see. So the reality is that typically the work that's being done is you ask for the minimal amount of information to be able to get the integration done. Like you're not asking for access to everything, only those elements you need, and the client ultimately controls that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So then kind of moving a little bit into, for this audience, what's going to be near and dear to their heart in terms of understanding artificial intelligence and a future state. And again, this just coming from your knowledge and perspective of what you're seeing in the work that you're doing today and just generally in the news or in business. So as AI becomes part of more business conversations, what should leaders understand about the systems and integration layer underneath it? Any thoughts there?
For sure. I think that the most important thing about LLMs that I don't see being talked about as much in those contexts is the fact that they are probabilistic. The fact that there is no certainty when it comes to using AI and trusting it implicitly. There's always this non-zero chance that they will give you the wrong answer to your question or put data in the wrong place or something far more devastating to your systems. And so having a knowledgeable human being double check and verify what an LLM is doing with your data is unbelievably important.
Yeah, absolutely agreed, especially when it's this type of data, which obviously has extra scrutiny in terms of trust and security. I don't think you can, the human element doesn't go away. I think you can optimize, right? So you can help kind of speed
Yeah.
that process up, but you're always going to need somebody who's taking a look over the information. So what about in terms of looking at your own work, where can AI realistically help these integrations speed up? And where is human judgment still very much critical?
For sure. I definitely believe that it has its uses and they're very, very helpful. Personally, I've used it a lot for debugging. I have not used it very much for like build this thing for me, please, right? Because of what I said before, it's often wrong. It often doesn't know what you're asking. But when you give it something that you've made and say, it's going wrong somewhere, here is the error message that I have. Can you help me understand this issue better? It's very good at that, especially for the work that we do when we're working with so many different systems they all have their own intricacies and they all have their own issues with APIs and other errors that might pop up. And they become increasingly difficult to Google for, either because it's such a specific issue, or the error message is so vague, or whatever help community tab or forum that this system has is either empty or not very helpful or hidden behind some kind of wall. Using AI to help discover what's going wrong with what you are doing has been invaluable. Absolutely.
Yeah, really helping both in terms of research in some ways, helping to research some of that. But even then, where research in and of itself isn't enough, for it to basically take a look at what you've built and steer you in the right direction. But again, ultimately at the end of the day, you as the developer are helping to guide it or steer it where you need it to go, and then to use whatever output it gives you to obviously make the final decision on whether that goes into your integration or stays out.
Right.
So, Wilson, thinking about all the stuff that we've covered on the call today, what is one practical takeaway you'd want listeners to remember out of what we've covered so far?
Yeah, I think it's definitely what I had to say about LLMs and their probabilistic nature and engines. I think it's something that isn't really hammered home as often as it should be. I think it's really important for people to know how these things are working before they trust them implicitly.
Yeah, excellent advice. So why don't we go ahead and end there? Wilson, thanks so much for your time today. Really look forward to having more of these discussions. The landscape for artificial intelligence is changing rapidly, so there's constant changes that are happening and impacting the way that we do the work that we do. So definitely looking forward to inviting you back in a few weeks or the coming period to go over more of this with the audience here, or for the audience.
Looking
All
forward to
right.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.